Hey everybody, what's going on? Prol here. Today I wanted to talk to you guys about something different. Very recently, a new student of mine introduced me to a new artist called Mk.gee. I'm hoping I'm saying his name right. Usually when people start taking lessons with me, I ask them, what kind of artists are you into, players, whatever, right? And then he mentioned this guy, Mk.gee, and that I didn't know about. I was like, oh, okay, let me do my research. And so I did. And what I found was very interesting. So much to my surprise, this guy is like, was already all blown over the internet. Guys like Red Show have already made videos talking about him. So, and you know, I started listening to the stuff and watching some live videos and stuff. And I thought it was very interesting for a couple of different reasons. One of them is his guitar tone. That's very unique, right? He definitely does not sound like a, I want to say standard guitar player. Who am I to say that? I'm a standard guitar player, I guess. But it's like his signal chain is something that's worth talking about and going over, because he does not really use, you know, your standard like guitar pedal board amplifier kind of a signal chain, you know, setup. So what he does is different, and one of the things I want to talk about is actually how to achieve that kind of a tone. You know, the intro for this video today is just me messing around with some of his tone. I played a little bit of the intro for his song Candy that I really like, and then, you know, I just improved a bunch of stuff, and then, you know, just having fun with it, right? Added a loop at some point. But the idea here is just try to understand how he achieves that tone, and what is it that you can use that you already have to get to as close as possible to that, right? Like, so I believe that what I got here is like in the ballpark, right? So what am I doing? There are a few things that we should talk about. First of all, so I'm not, for this kind of a thing, I'm not using an amp. I'm going direct, right? Which is what he does. He uses a Tascam Mk.2 or Mk.1, I forget which one it is. And what it is, he uses that to get that preamp set. So he saturates the preamp a bunch to get like preamp saturation, right? Distortion, right, if you will. So this is what it is. So if I pull it up here, my console. So you probably can't see that, but I'm just gonna walk you through. So this is my DI sound, as clean as possible. Right, super clean. Cool. Now the first thing that I did, trying to get his sound, is get a console emulation here and saturate it. So I get, see the difference? Oh, I'm sorry, I still have a, let me mute the reverb there. I'm gonna mute this right now for a minute. Cool. So just the console saturation. Right? Right? If I take it out. Right? So that is one of the things. And the other thing that I'm using is just a compressor here in 1176, just to even it out. So this is my direct sound. This is all I'm using on the console, right? Now, before I even get to the reverb, so I'm using a little bit like a modified boost driver that I have just to gain stage it and get a little bit more saturation. So without it, it's just a console. With it, right? So that's just the distortion side of things. He also uses a fuzz that I'm not using right now, but if I turn it on, it sounds like, right? But even before this, before all the stuff, before the drive, anything on my board, the first thing that I have on my board, because I don't know if you notice, his tuning is different, right? He plays, like, he doesn't even play a baritone guitar. Like, the baritone guitar is a great choice to play his music. But what it looks like is what he does is he plays a Fender Jaguar, and he uses flat wound strings, like baritone strings on it. So he plays a short scale guitar, like a standard, but like using baritone, a baritone setup. I think that's what it is. But you know, if you have a baritone guitar, great. If you don't, there's a hack. You can get away with it, just like I have. This is a standard tuning guitar, right? Not a baritone. So what I am using, so again, this is about getting as close as you can with the gear you have to Mk.gee's sound. So I'm using one of my favorite effects, by the way, that I have. I've had this for a long time, is the Helix HX effects, right? By Line 6. So I've had it a long time, toured with a bunch of artists using that. Love it too. Still my board. On one of my boards, but my main board. So what it is that I'm using here is, so I'm using this pitch thing that I tuned to his guitar. So if I turn it on, without it, right? Then with it. So very different, right? It works pretty well. Without, with it, right? Sometimes when you play a lot of notes together, it doesn't sound as good. It's pretty distant, right? You can get by with that easy. So that's the first thing on my board. Now I would have that distortion modified blues driver for gain stages. So far this is what we got, right? Then a couple things that he uses there. So he uses a flanger, so I'm using that, right? Right, little flanger. I have a reverb that I put together on my board. First, when I was first trying to figure out how to get to as close as possible to stone, which is this one, which is fine. But the problem with it is that, so Mk.gee, this is one thing with the reverb that is really cool. He uses this pedal called the Ranger reverb or Ranger effects, whatever it is, which is a reverb, but it has a gate on it. And what does that do? So the gate, the reverb only really activates after you set the threshold. So like when you dig hard, you hear the full reverb, and when you don't, you hear it really quietly, right? So that's a super cool thing. So that cleans up a lot of stuff that it's based on the way he plays, right? His lines. So how like I was like, okay, I like this reverb here that I came up with on the HX effects, but it's not. It doesn't give me that, right? So what I did was I created a bus here on my console, and on that bus I put a couple things. So the first thing that I put there was a gate, right? I'm using the API console emulation on that bus, and I'm really just using none of the EQ in there, just really just the gate, right? Because I want to gate in a certain way that it only kind of like gets the distorted things, right? Now, after the gate, I have a distortion rat pedal emulation, right, to get more saturation. And after that, I have the reverb. So this is what it sounds like now. So this is without it, right? Just the. And when I turn that on, right? So if I play quietly again, see, if I play a little harder, so if I play quietly, right? Every now and then you get a little bit, but if I dig hard, see how it cleans up? It's cool, right? It still works with the fuzz. If I have the fuzz on, then I got a lot of that reverb, right? Right? of like how it works. I don't have the fuzz on all the time. When I just play that thing at the beginning, I just turned it on mostly for leads, right? I think that's how he uses it too. When he goes like more lead sound, then he uses a fuzz. And I'm using a fuzz from the HX effects that I love. And one thing that I'm gonna say about the HX effects, because I'm very, I've always been like more like a single pedal kind of a guy for each thing. But the HX effects the Line 6 is really good with effects. They're like amazing. I think it was like Billy Corgan from Smashing Pumpkins that I read or saw him talking about it. But he's very into fuzz. He's very particular about his effects, but when he heard the HX effects, fuzz effects, he was like, okay, yeah, no, I can definitely use that. So just saying, I don't get anything from Line 6. I'm not endorsed or anything, but it's just just giving you tips. Fine. So then we have that bus feeding into the DI channel, right? Now we got that. A couple other things worth mentioning about Mk.gee's tone. And again, I just started listening to this guy. I don't know everything there is to know about him. But so this is kind of like me trying to find something here after my first impressions on his music and his playing, right? But a couple of things that I thought were cool also mentioning. He has a parametric EQ by Empress. I love that company, by the way. It's a Canadian company. They make pedals. A parametric EQ. I also have an EQ here on HX Effects. I'm not using it right now, but I'm not sure how he uses parametric EQ yet. He also uses something I thought was curious. He uses a hum debugger pedal by Electro Harmonics, which is not the same as a noise gate. The debugger thing they claim, like, I'm not sure how well it works. I have like a really small version of it, but he uses like the big debugger pedal, and they claim that it cleans up your sound. So I'm not sure how effective it is, but it's just worth mentioning it. And also, like, I'm kind of like, I was digging this because I have this pedal by Electro Harmonics called what's it called? The Key 9, which is a synth emulation, because he uses from my understanding is that he uses a couple things for synth. One of them is the VG8, which is a super old, man, like back when I was in college, 98. How long was that ago? How long ago was that? People were like, well, that's when it came out. The VGA, people were going nuts over it because you can play all these synth sounds with that pedal. It's by Prol, and you just like, I think you have to add like a pickup to your guitar, and then because it's MIDI, it reads the MIDI, and then it translates to whatever sound you want. But what I'm using here is this Electro Harmonics synth pedal that gives me like a couple options for synth, like 8 options, and the one that I thought that suits this kind of tone better, so if I play with that, is this. And if I turn it on, so one more time. Turn it on. And I thought that was a good thing for candy sounds. Right? I thought it sounded cool, but you don't have to. You can get away without it. Maybe even without it's better. I don't know. I'm still going back and forth. So those are the things. Let's see if I remember anything else worth mentioning about his gear. I'm not sure. No. So I think that's it. That's how I'm getting the sound. And so he doesn't use guitar amps. He uses I think like the Fender Tone Master speaker as a monitor, right? Probably works well with the DI sound. I don't know. I never used it, so I can't really say anything about that. But what I can say is that if you try this configuration here with a real amp, it will not sound as good, or like it will start. It doesn't sound like his stuff, and I can show you. So if I bypass, so I'm gonna bypass the DI entirely and just go. Let's get the amp sound. So now we're gonna get our amp going. So let me turn everything else off here. So this is the amp. Oh, sorry. Oh. Right, let me turn on the compressor here now. Your standard amp sound, right? Now we're gonna try to use the same effects and see how the Mk.gee configuration thing sounds on the real amp. So again, we're gonna go with the pitch. Now I'm gonna turn on my reverb that I have here. Problem is, you won't have the gate thing that only allows the hard notes to get large amounts of reverb. So everything is gonna get a bunch of reverb. So right now, it doesn't matter how hard or how soft I play, I get the same amount of reverb, which is already not what we want. I'm gonna add the flanger. Right now, I'm gonna add the keyboard sound combined with the guitar sound. It's not that it's terrible, but it's just not, it doesn't sound as close to sound as the other configuration does, right? I can still add the fuzz, but that's gonna give me like so much reverb. Right, and then you got no dynamics, because that's worth talking about. Because let me go back to our standard thing, the one that works, which is the DI sound. So now back to DI. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, cool. So to me, this is the sound. There's no doubt this sounds better. And it's crazy because, you know, as someone who really only plays through amps 99% of the time, and I'm saying 99 because, and this has nothing to do with Mk.gee, but there is situations where you actually, for me, it's just like studio situations where I actually want to have a DI sound instead of a guitar sound. And one of those is a recording funk, right? So those funk lines were, but I have that reverb. Sorry. Gonna mute that again. Right, something like that. So you would actually, if you're into funk, you will, and you do your research, you will find that a lot of sounds, you know, Nile Rodgers too, I think Paul Jackson Jr., a bunch of people use DI sounds for funk. But this is not what we're talking about. We're talking about Mk.gee. So, so yeah. So, you know, try these things that I was telling you about. try to find, if you have a like a pitch thing, you know, this one that I'm using is called Poly Capo, I find that it works really well. Right? Also, of course, no pick for Mk.gee stuff. It's all finger, and that's a big part of how he gets his dynamics, because dynamics, as far as I can tell, on his music is huge, right? So this is also why he has that specific reverb. It has all to do with dynamics, because he wants a lot of reverb. When he digs in, he gets like a harder, and sometimes you want it clean, and when you just want, right, you know, just want a little bit, right? I just play whatever, doesn't matter, just for you to understand. So which is dynamics is a huge part of songwriting. So if you're into songwriting as well, you have to always pay attention to dynamics. So okay, these are pretty much my first impressions. I hope you guys dig it. This video is not really about my playing or anything. It's mostly about my journey into finding these this different guitar tone that I was just introduced to, and I dig. You know, I like seeing what's out there. I feel like people, especially when they get older, and I'm talking about myself. I don't know how old you are who's watching this, but one thing that really happens, and I see this a lot with friends of mine that are also in the industry, is like you start getting older and then you start not paying attention to the new music that's coming out, the new artists, right? Because people, they get like set in their ways. And this is not just musicians, man. It's producers. I know a lot of producers who have no idea of what the new music that's coming out is all about. And you can like it or not, but you still should do your research, because in the end, you know, you get hired by people to record. If you're like a session guy, like I am too, you get hired to record all sorts of music, and you gotta know the references, right? You gotta know what people are talking about. People start talking about Mk.gee, or like, you know, I'm glad my student got introduced me to this guy, because I had no idea, and I was like, oh man, I've been missing out, you know, because there's really not just about you liking it or not liking it. You're entitled to like or not. That's taste. There's no right or wrong, but you should, if you're a professional musician, producer, sound engineer, whatever, if you're in the industry, you have to know what is happening now, not just the stuff that you like, that you used to listen to, you know, that you or still listen to, of course. But, and you can have, it's great to, like, the one thing that's good about age is having like these older references that people that are like younger have no idea what it is. So if you're aware of what's happening now, and you have all those references for all those years working, you know, in music, and you're listening to music, you have a bigger spectrum of things that you can, you know, research and try to come up with things that will work for the music you're working on right now. The more references, the better. But just don't get set in your ways and say, you know, that old kind of a talk, oh, there's no good music nowadays, all the good music was back then. It's, you know, it's just different, you know. I just gotta get used to it. And I'm not even getting married what I like, what I don't like that's coming out these days. It doesn't matter. This is not what this is about. This is about, you know, making sure you're up to date. Got to be up to date, and there's no excuses nowadays. It's like, what, Spotify, whatever streaming, so this, all the music in the world is like at your hands, like right there. You have no excuses not to know what's happening, right? Until next time, rock on.